Time to wake up. It's Saturday morning. Find some milk and cereal. Grab a bowl and spoon. No, a bigger spoon. Head to the living room and take a seat on the floor while Joseph and Chris present to you Saturday Morning Cartoon!
Hello everybody and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoon Boom! This is a show where I wake up with a Saturday morning sun and plop down on the living room floor with a big bowl of sugary cereal and watch all your favorite cartoons, both old and new. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Chris.
This morning, we watched Rwby, spelled R-W-B-Y, so Rwby.
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 And this was suggested by our friend Alisha. So thank you very much, Alisha.
Yes, thank you, Alisha. So the show Rwby started in 2013. It's actually still going. So this is a very recent cartoon created by Monty of Rooster Teeth, produced by Rooster Teeth. It's run for 4 seasons so far, 43 episodes on the Rooster Teeth website, YouTube, Crunchyroll, and Netflix as of most recent, I believe.
Oh, I didn't even realize it was on Netflix.
Yeah,
man.
I think it was just the first 2 seasons, but they may have updated it past that at this point. I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah. For a short synopsis, Team Rwby trains to fight crime and monsters known as the Grimm. Together, they will protect the world of Remnant. That's a pretty basic overview, but
yeah, there's a lot more going on in there, but they're not wrong.
No. So Chris, who were a few of the actors that played in this show?
All right, so I just put down the 4 main characters that are part of Team Rwby or Team Rwby. And so Ruby Rose is voiced by Lindsay Jones. Yang Xiaolong is voiced by Barbara Dunkelman. Wise Schnee is voiced by Kara Eberl. And Blake Belladonna voiced by Aaron Zek. All 4 of these women are part of the Rooster Teeth greater collective. A lot of them are on multiple shows. One of them was actually like an office manager for Rooster Teeth for a while. And she's since left Rooster Teeth, but she still reprises her role on the show. So
interesting.
Yeah, they haven't really been in much else outside of Rooster Teeth products, but they've been in several Rooster Teeth presentations. So
that's cool. Keeping it in-house.
Yep.
So here's a few tasty marshmallows out of our big bowl of Rwby cereal. I think we're going to keep doing that the whole episode. Rwby cereal. So apparently the creator, Monty designed the world map by squirting ketchup on a napkin, scrunching it up, and then unfurling it. He then used the shapes the ketchup made as inspiration for the size and shape of the land masses.
That's really kind of weird and awesome at the same time.
Right? Yeah, that's a way to do it.
I like that idea.
The names of each of the 4 main characters relate to the color of their hair and the main color of their outfits. Ruby's main color is red. Her name refers to the color of the Rwby gemstones. And also, she is an homage in a way to Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, I could see that.
Mm-hmm. Weiss's main color is white. Her name means white in German. And she's sort of an homage to Snow White because her full name, Weiss Schnee, literally means Snow White in German.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Blake's main color is black. Her name is an Old English word for black. And she was actually inspired by Beauty and the Beast. Her last name, Belladonna, is kind of like Belle from Beauty and the Beast. And the guy who she has the most interactions with in the show, Adam, was the Beast's name before he turned into the Beast.
Oh, interesting.
Uh-huh. And then finally, Yang's main color is yellow. Her name means sun in Cantonese. And she is inspired by Goldilocks. So all of these are kind of fairy tale characters, but only in a very indirect way. It's not
only an inspiration.
Right. It's not that they're these characters like destroying monsters, but that would be cool too.
Oh man, I like that. I like all of that. That's cool.
Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting reading into it some. And finally, the show became such a huge viral hit that a fan created a game titled Rwby Grimm Eclipse, which was later officially adopted by Rooster Teeth and was fully released for PC on July 5th, 2016. And
wow.
And I heard that Rooster Teeth also hired this guy onto the team, because of this game. And I think he came up with this game in like a period of 5 months, or fully developed it in a period of 5 months. And and I watched some videos of it, and it looks like a really cool game. It's kind of like I can't think of like a really direct thing to compare it to, but almost like Dynasty Warriors, because they're sending these hordes of enemies at you, those Grimm monsters.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so
I would totally play that.
Yeah, it looked really cool.
Is it Rwby Eclipse? Is that what you said?
Grimm Eclipse. It's called Rwby
Eclipse.
Grimm Eclipse. Yeah,
Grimm Eclipse.
Rwby Grimm Eclipse. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so cool that they ended up hiring this fan and released his like fan-made game as an actual product and brought him into the team and everything. That's so awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
like, you never hear of stuff like that happening.
Yeah, that just goes to show like what having those inspirations, or what developing your inspiration can do for you. Like, it can go a long way. And that's almost like, I don't know a whole lot about Rooster Teeth, but what I do know is that, you know, they're kind of a big company at this point, but they're still somewhat small company, and anything they develop are things that they would want to watch themselves. Like, they don't make anything that just to make it. It's all by fans for fans. And so this was just a fan making something that was by fans for fans in the first place. So it's just a constant cycle. I like it.
That made my head hurt.
So Chris, do you have any memories of this show at all?
Not really. I mean, I know of Rooster Teeth because I used to watch Red vs. Blue all the time, and I love Red vs. Blue. I mean, it started out just really basic and silly, and then it grew in complexity for years, and then became this awesome story that actually had a lot of depth. And so when I was watching this, I can see some of that, like, writing. They're very skilled writers. Like, I got to give them that. They're extremely skilled at writing. So I could definitely get that same feeling. And the only other exposure I've really had is through Alisha, because she cosplayed as Rwby, during San Diego Comic-Con. And her costume was really awesome. And I felt bad because I felt like I couldn't appreciate it as much because I didn't know the character. But it was really intricate. Like, the weapon that she made was just amazing. And all these people were constantly stopping to take pictures with her. So she obviously did a great job at it. So yeah, that's pretty much my only exposure. And now that I've seen it, I can appreciate her cosplay as, like, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm kind of in the minority, I think, but I didn't really know anything about Rooster Teeth. I had heard the name before, but I couldn't have tied it to anything except Red versus Blue, and only in the sense that I had heard about that too. Like, I've never seen that. I just know it's a weird Halo thing, and I wasn't a fan of the Halo games, so it made sense that I didn't care about that at the time. But I mean, after watching this, I mean, maybe I should give that a chance.
Oh, you should. It's like Red vs. Blue is hilarious. I mean, it's just like, it doesn't really have anything to do with the actual Halo universe. It's just like they made their own story using Halo, not even characters, you know, because they just went into multiplayer mode and made their own characters through it. And oh my gosh, it is funny stuff.
Yeah, so I don't think I ever would have heard about this show, period, in my entire life if not for Alisha. So thank you. Maybe thank you. But anyway, let's jump into the 3 episodes we watched for today's show. Very first episode, highest rated episode, and finally a random listener chosen episode. The order may vary depending on how these episodes fall chronologically, but of course we have to start with the very first episode, being Ruby Rose, Season 1, Episode 1, where Ruby Rose finds herself in the middle of a robbery committed by famous criminal Roman Torchwick.
I really like the setting for this story. Like, I like that they give, like, the history, like the legend, basically, behind, like, the Grimm and how humanity, like, defeated them and kind of built into this society, and now the Grimm's basically coming back.
Yeah, the Grimm are coming back. It's really
cool.
And then the magic sort of in this universe is called dust.
Yeah.
Or it's in a way, it's kind of like elemental magic somewhat. It's uses these stones or this kind of liquid stuff from what I had gathered from the first episode. And it opens inside of a dust shop, kind of. Mm-hmm. Where the villain, as they were saying, who looks kind of like Alex from Clockwork Orange, at least
he looks a lot like Alex from Clockwork Orange
in his attire. Like, yeah,
it's absolutely, there's no way he was not based on that character.
Right. So he is basically robbing the old shopkeep of his dust magic stuff. I don't really know what to even call it. Like, just
it was like there was like a bunch of gems in there, and that was stuff to be used.
But he also had like a Slurpee machine of dust that was just that they put in those little tubes.
Yeah, they so these bad guys with Roman go in there, they're like robbing the place. And I love that Ruby's just in the back of the store with headphones on, not knowing what's happening.
Oh yeah, she's listening to records back there.
Yeah, and this one bad guy is like confronting her, and she's like, "What?" And then she's like, "Are you robbing me?" And he's like, "Yes." And she's like, "Oh." And then throws him through a window. That was awesome. That was such a great opening to her character for sure.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. We get to see her kind of chase down the character Roman, who shoots at her with his cane and uses it as an escape tactic but not a very good one, because she sees him just climbing up a ladder or something onto a rooftop. So she chases him down. As she gets up there, a giant helicopter comes up to rescue Roman. And then there's this other dust user who's inside of the helicopter, like a kind of a pyro dust user.
That female, and we don't really get a good look at her face. Like she's very shrouded,
concealed in the shadow. Yeah,
but it made her character more intriguing because there's just a lot of mystery there, and she seems like she'd be extremely powerful because she fires like this fire magic or something like right at her. But then this other woman, who we later find out is a huntress, jumps in front of Rwby and basically redirects the fire and saves her. It was really cool. I liked it. Yeah,
Rwby has this giant scythe, this giant red scythe that she's trained in using. And we find out that she was trained by her Uncle Crow, but she's not part of the main school, the Beacon school.
Right.
But she wants to be, but she's still, I think, a couple years from graduating from the initial school, the Signal school that she starts at, Signal Academy. And seeing this feat of heroics and her mastery of this scythe, the headmaster, the huntress takes her to meet up with the headmaster of Beacon. Oh, the huntress's name was Glinda Goodwitch, which obviously Wizard of Oz.
Right. Yeah, very much.
Yeah, and so the headmaster's like, if you want to go to the school, you're welcome to it. Basically skips her ahead 2 grades because she's already so masterful with that scythe.
Right. Like the best way I can describe it is like, so the Signal school would be kind of like almost like ROTC or something. And then Beacon is like full-fledged, like military, something like that. Like that's this, you're making it into like the big ranks once you get there. So, she gets skipped ahead several years to go to Beacon, which is where her sister hasn't started yet, but was about to start. So now they get to go together. Her sister being Yang.
Right. And the yellow of RWBY. Yes. Yeah.
Yellow. Oh, no way.
What?
I didn't get that. Holy crap.
You didn't get that it was red, white, black, yellow?
No, I didn't get it.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, why are they spelling her name weird for the title? Oh my God.
Wow.
I need to go. I need to leave.
We're done.
This podcast is over. How did I not catch on?
That is the first thing. I was like, that is spelled weird. What could it mean? And so I thought about it for a second, and that's all I could come up with was the colors. That's also happens to be the colors of Rooster Teeth's logo are red, white, black, and yellow, which is why they named it that.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I feel so stupid now. Dang it.
Dang.
I'm not very observant.
Hilarious.
Nobody has ever accused me of being observant. So,
well, it was good to be a part of your discovery here.
The realization.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I could have seen myself, on camera when that hit my mind.
I just saw your eyebrows raise above your head. Just what? When you realized.
I was like, what? So let's address the elephant in the room, which is that this animation is very unconventional for a cartoon.
Unconventional is a word for it.
It's very digital, And everything's drawn with thin lines and lots of cell shading. And this reminds me of like Dreamcast games, like the early Sony Dreamcast video games. This is what the graphics remind me of. When I first started watching it, I was very underwhelmed by it.
Right.
And so just because the backgrounds were very simple, there wasn't a lot of detail. But, you know, this was a very small company, so you kind of got to cut them a little slack there. But yeah, I was kind of underwhelmed with it until they started the fights. So once she started fighting those henchmen, because I mean, it was done really well and it was so fast paced. I was just like, oh, okay, I like this. And then when you start getting to see like the magic and things like that, I think it looked really cool. But yeah, it is like watching cutscenes from a video game.
Yeah.
This show reminds me of like some sort of like Final Fantasy game that we never got.
Kind of. I felt more like the first episode was very underwhelming to me, and it was almost like I was kind of sighing a little bit where I was like, is the whole thing going to be like this? And I was worried that I wasn't going to get like, because it's all just very in your face, and there didn't seem like there was going to be much to it at first. And I'll put emphasis on that. At first, that's how I felt. The first episode, I was like, like if this was the only episode that I had to watch, I'd be done with the series forever. But fortunately, for the sake of the podcast, I did watch the other two, and that really kind of changed my opinion of things, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Like I really like the writing, and I like the voice acting in this too quite a bit. So this is written like, this feels like, I mean, the dialogue, the story, it feels like an actual anime that you would find, you know, out there. Like the way the characters talk, especially Rwby in particular, is very like, they hit a few anime tropes, but not in a way that it doesn't feel original. Like her character feels very original, but she does have a lot of tendencies you see in other animes. But that just made me like her more, honestly.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, to me though, it almost seemed like it was too anime-ish at first, and that's where I was almost like, yeah, I was kind of done with it a little bit in the first episode. But yeah, these episodes are also, we've talked a surprisingly long time about this, since episodes are very short. The first one especially was only like 12 minutes.
Right.
And I think we've talked more than 12 minutes about it already.
It's weird how that works.
But the second episode, I think this one was the one chosen by Alisha, was Painting the Town, Season 2, Episode 4, where Blake and Sun find Torchwick supplying advanced armaments to a group of radicals, but the two are discovered.
That does happen.
Uh-huh.
We'll give them that. What I liked about this is we got to see a lot of, there's way more characters than I expected, because I figured, okay, we got Rwby, we got her sister, and then, you know, on the cover art, you see two other characters. So I kind of figure that's going to be the core of everything. But there's a lot of characters in this show. And we get to see a lot of them in this episode, which is kind of cool. And it looks like at the beginning of this episode, Rwby had just met some other character maybe and found out that she wasn't a real person. She was synthetic.
Penny told her that she revealed to her that she was a synthetic person, or an android, I guess.
Right.
And the police are kind of after her because General Ironwood helped to build her, and he's kind of watching over her.
Ironwood. Oh, God. That is a certain adult film star's last name, I'm sure. He created her, and so she's very valuable, and he wants to keep her safe. So the police are out looking for her, trying to recover her, basically.
Right, yeah. And she has to hide Rwby inside of a trash can.
She throws her in a dumpster. Yeah. That was pretty. I loved their exchange there. When she gets thrown in the dumpster, she's like, ah! It was good.
Yeah, they're prepping for a Vital Festival that's going to happen the following day. Rwby's sister Yang is taking this blue-haired guy. I don't know his name. There's so many characters. I didn't catch all their names.
There's a ton of characters.
But it's this blue-haired guy who she's taking to a bar that is part of, it's kind of like a bar with shady individuals who are part of this this bad deal that's about to go down that I talked about in the intro of the episode. And she happens to be, I guess, friends or acquaintances with the bartender. So she's able to get in even though guns are pulled on her right as she walks in.
You know, all the guys turn in their guns. But I love the part where the DJ like steps up and turns the music off because
he's in a bear suit.
He looks like all of the other guys except he's in a bear suit.
Yeah.
And he just really subtly like reaches up and stops the music. And that cracked me up. I actually laughed out loud at that one. That was good.
That was pretty good. And Roman Torchwick, we cut to him inside the kind of a factory where all these people are meeting up. These bad dudes are meeting up to talk about the big mech that he has. And
yeah, I think they're all synthetics also.
That's what I think that's the case. That when they have those masks on, I think that's what that's supposed to mean, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, because he kept saying something like, I know I'm not, or was it? He was trying to appeal to them because they didn't trust him because he was human.
Right. And he said humans are the worst. That's
right.
True. So they couldn't be human really. So yeah, they were probably androids as well, or maybe just some sort of group that were just anti-human. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah.
But this is, it's not that it wasn't explained probably very well in the previous episodes. It's just the way that we jump these episodes. We're missing a lot of context leading up to them. So we're just going by what we saw. We get to see then Yang interrogating the bartender. Oh, Neptune was the blue-haired guy's name because she says it a little bit later. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm trying to think who else was involved because we saw Blake at one point.
Yeah, Blake and Sun.
Okay, that's right.
They're the ones who were inside.
They snuck into that place where Roman was speaking to these synthetics.
And they were wearing those masks as well.
Yeah, they put the masks on. And like, I'm not going to lie, it was automatic Blake Sahadi because she has little cat ears. And I'm like, whoa.
So cats do it for you? Is that what it is?
Well, I like cats in general, no, but if a girl's got little cat ears on top of her head, like, I guess for whatever reason that awakens things.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, she's a cute cat lady.
Cute cat lady.
You'll never hear me say that again.
We also had a bunny lady in the next
and
episode.
She was just as adorable.
So maybe it's just women dressed like animals for you.
I guess. Oh God, does that mean I'm a furry?
Probably, yeah.
Oh man. I do like how so Blake and the guy she's with try to take out the mech that Roman gets in because he's got this big mech. He's trying to sell it, I think, to the synthetics as weapons, and he's going to give a demonstration. And they try to like stop it or something, and he goes after them. And they're trying to radio everybody for help. And I like how Blake is like, everyone, if you can hear me, we need back. And then you hear the guy just go, help! Like really loud.
What I liked about this episode, one of the best parts of it, since I didn't really know what was going on beforehand, what I can understand is battle. And when they got into the giant battle with the mech on the bridge, that was awesome.
Oh my gosh, the fight scenes in this are amazing.
Yeah, the fight scenes are
such a great job.
Are so well animated and I guess choreographed in a sense because they're just feels a lot more fluid than you would think the animation style would allow. But
yeah, that's something that happened with Red vs. Blue also because for several seasons of that show, I mean, they were limited by what you can do in the Halo games, but eventually they got sponsored by Microsoft. They got more money to work on it, and then they were able to, map their own characters and pretty much animate them as they want. And then all of a sudden you got these beautifully choreographed fight scenes in that show. Yep. So watching this, I'm like, yep, I see it. You can definitely tell the same people worked on it because those fight scenes were gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we get to see, for Chris and I, this was our introduction to a lot of these characters' fight styles, because all we saw in the first episode was Rwby, really.
Right.
So we get to see now Rwby, Weiss, Yang, and Blake do their thing, and they all have these separate weapons. Like we said earlier, Ruby's is a scythe, Weiss's is like a rapier, and then Blake's is like double swords and then a whip as well. And
like Catwoman.
And Yang's is kind of like gauntlets, but I think she fights more with her fists than anything.
Yang was awesome.
Finding out what her power was, or the way that that Rwby puts it is the way that she's special is the more damage she takes. In a way, she's almost like a bishop from X-Men, kind of, where she kind of absorbs the damage. He absorbs
energy.
He absorbs energy, but she absorbs the damage that he's taking.
I made a similar comparison to someone from the X-Men kind of universe, which was Strong Guy from X Factor, because that's what happens with him, right? Like the more he gets hurt, the bigger and stronger he gets.
I don't know. I think so. It might be the case. Well,
if not, Sebastian Shaw's like the same way too.
Or Hulk. The more you hurt him, the angrier he gets and the stronger he gets. So all these characters, she has the ability to absorb the physical damage she's taking and kind of reflect it back.
Yeah, she gets stronger the more she gets hit. So which is cool. I like seeing a woman in that role.
Yeah,
because that's awesome. Like seeing a woman that can just get down and dirty and like really fight. So that was cool.
It was good seeing all of the main characters being really the main
they're all
team of women. The main team being all women. Yeah, I mean there are huntresses, which is what they are, and then huntsmen, which are the male ones. So there are males in this school, but it focused on the women, which was a kind of a good change of pace.
Yeah, there's just a few males really that we know of on that side. And yeah, they're very secondary characters. Like you only see them really in the presence of one of the women, which is kind of nice to see.
Yeah, and then we get to see, well, Roman comes back in. I mean, well, not back in. He's in that mech, but so when the mech gets punched apart, he falls out of it. And then we get to see this other woman come in. This is our first introduction to her. Her name's Neo. And she's like...
she's so cool.
It was funny because have you ever heard the meme or the video or whatever it is called Neon Cat or Neon Cat? That's what she's an inspiration because her name is Neon Cat.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't get that. That's cool.
Yeah, so... But she, as far as we've seen her, has been completely silent. And she's just kind of Roman's bodyguard.
She's cool. Like, she's got... one of her eyes is different colored than the other, and her hair matches it.
She's like pink and black. She's almost like Two-Face, not Two-Faces, but her hair is split apart in her eyes and her clothing as well.
She shows up with like this umbrella and like deflects some magic that got slung Roman's way.
Like a little parasol, but she's such an amazing fighter. Like you don't, she's so confident that you don't see really any kind of weakness in her. She's very just on point.
And her power is amazingly cool. So basically, like, she grabs Roman and then they get hit by some magic and they just shatter into pieces. But what she does is, like, she basically, like, teleports away, but it, like, leaves a mirror copy of herself and whoever, she's teleporting that just shatters like glass.
Oh,
and I'm like, dude, that is cool. That is so cool.
That is a very cool power.
Yeah, I love that a lot.
The end of this episode made me laugh because after the battle was over and after Roman and Neo got away, they were like, I wonder where Sun and Neptune are. I wonder if they're okay or something like that. And then it cuts to this ramen bar where they're both sitting eating. And then they're like, they're probably fine, right? Probably.
Yeah, they didn't help in the fight whatsoever. They just went and started eating
got
food.
Ramen. Yeah, I
kind of like that.
They weren't needed there.
Right. I like it because it was like, for one, I mean, that's funny and it gives, some levity and some comedy to the situation. But two, it's because, these guys are like, these women have it. They don't need our help.
Yeah.
So they're just like, they can handle it. They don't need us. I think that's cool.
Yeah, which is very atypical to a lot of male characters who were just like, oh, the woman needs me. Like, I need to be there to protect women, whatnot.
And almost like any cartoon or TV show ever, it's almost always the opposite. So it's awesome to see this.
Yeah, a good role reversals.
For sure.
So the third episode we watched for today's show was Heroes and Monsters, Season 3, Episode 11, which was the highest rated, and man, I can see why.
Yeah. Oh, man, stuff went down in this episode.
Rwby faces off against Neo and Torchwick. The war for Beacon continues, and in the midst of all the chaos, Blake and Adam's encounter reaches a shocking conclusion.
Yeah, it does. Jeez.
Oh, man. I don't even know. I mean, of course, this is 3 seasons in.
Yeah.
So we've missed a lot of the context around it, but it was just awesome. Visually, it was an awesome episode. And I could see the kindling of what was probably a really strong story leading up to it.
Oh yeah, you could very much tell that there's been a lot building, and this was kind of like the beginning of like the all out, like the desperate, like last battle kind of situation. Right. One thing to note is that the animation has improved each season. Mm-hmm. And it definitely shows here because, I mean, even in the last episode we talked about, the animation had definitely improved, but it's even better in this one. So just the quality just keeps going up and up.
Yeah, it was the cleanest that it had been the whole time. I mean, it's still the same design style. And they didn't change it drastically, but it was definitely very clean and a lot smoother than the first episode, especially.
And more detail.
Yeah.
Like, especially in the backgrounds were much more detailed.
Sure.
We get to see the Grimms. There's a lot of Grimms.
Oh, yeah.
Those Grimms things are everywhere.
Because at some point in season 2, the Grimms kind of broke out into the city, and we're seeing them here still in the city. You know, the Grimms come in a lot of different forms. There's scorpion ones, there's dragon looking ones, there's just different kind of beast. And they look pretty awesome. They're all basically the same kind of design, but they look really cool.
Kind of like, if anyone plays World of Warcraft, they kind of remind me of the Shah a little bit. They're like these black kind of creatures with these like white designs on their faces and stuff. But it's kind of like that. Like all of the Grimms have like a similar, like they might be completely different shapes, but they have very similar characteristics in their colors and patterns and stuff.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, we see so many characters in this episode. Like, so the last one we talked about, I was like, man, there's so many. And now they just doubled it pretty much. There's so many. This is like Game of Thrones level of the amount of characters. There's tons.
There's a part of this episode where there's these three characters who I had no idea who they were. And they were doing this thing that was probably really dramatic. But I didn't feel, I felt the weight of it, but I didn't feel the full weight of it just because I didn't know what they were doing even.
Right.
One of them's name was like Pyra or something, and she had to make this really tough decision of whether or not to, I don't know what she was doing, like taking in the mind or the essence of this other being, but then that gets foiled by another person who I'm not sure who she was with, who shot an arrow at the other tank.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so I think what was going on, wasn't that the synthetic girl that went into that tank?
Maybe, yeah.
I think that might have been. So it was like that headmaster guy was putting her in this tank. There was another girl in another tank that kind of had her eyes closed, didn't look like she was quite there. And it almost looked like they were transferring energy or something.
Yeah.
Like maybe this was going to be a pivotal moment. But somebody, shoots an arrow right into the other girl. Presumably kills her, and just like, you felt like, this must be really bad.
It looks really bad.
Whatever just happened must be terrible.
Her essence gets passed into the one who shot the arrow, and it looks like she's up to no good.
Right.
Basically, the girl who was in the other tank has to escort the guy who was kind of guarding with the shield, escorts him out of there, and I think the doctor is going to deal with it, or the professor is going to deal with it at that point.
Yeah, and we don't really see what ends up happening there.
Right.
Between those two.
I think this was the second to last episode of the third season.
Yeah,
so
it was.
Yeah. We get to see, the opening of this episode and kind of a lot in between is Rwby on top of one of these airships fighting against Roman and Neo. All around them are these Grimms just flying around, and Grimms aren't taking sides. Grimms are their own side. So we see that in its fullest in a bit.
Yeah, they're kind of fighting everything.
Yeah.
Another thing that's going on with like the majority of the characters are fighting multiple, because we were talking about that big mech Roman had in the last episode. So now there's a whole bunch of these characters fighting multiple mechs.
Oh yeah, right.
There is like one in particular that like 3 or 4 of them were all attacking at once and like not doing any damage. And so that one lady with the big machine gun calls in Velvet, and Velvet is the girl with the rabbit ears.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, really? You want me?" kind of thing. And they're like, "Yeah, go for it." And oh my gosh, this girl takes it out by herself.
Her power is really cool because it's essentially she's able to make kind of not astral, but like these
like light weapons,
hologram light weapons of everyone's weapon around her.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing her basically go through an arsenal of weaponry to break this mech apart.
And she just demolishes it. Just like everyone was going for this one thing and no one could get it. And this one girl takes it down all by herself.
I wonder what the negative side to her is, though, because they were really reluctant.
Why they were holding her back?
Yeah, they were reluctant to use her. So maybe she just doesn't have control of her own power sometimes. I don't know. Yeah,
I'm not really sure, but yeah, that definitely stood out. So there's definitely more to know about that. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of intriguing subplots and plot points that we didn't have the full understanding of, but something I'd like to delve back into and kind of figure out what the details are behind them.
One thing that I liked about the bad guy, about Roman, is that when Ruby's trying to fight him, she says something to him like, "Why are you helping the Grimms?" Or she says what do you have to gain? And he says basically that he doesn't have anything to gain. He just has something he can't afford to lose. Yeah. So I thought that was a really cool turn as far as that goes, it's not like he's doing this for power or something like that. There's something going on that he can't afford to lose this battle.
Yeah. It's something going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I'm not certain of this because we don't watch past this, but this may be the last we see of Roman.
Yeah, it kind of leads you to believe that dude might be done.
Yeah.
Also, so Blake is confronting, she's off by herself. Blake is confronting some guy that I think is one of the synthetics.
Adam, yeah.
Yeah, okay, Adam. So she's confronting him and they're kind of fighting and stuff a little bit. He gets the better of her. And eventually, Yang was looking for her and finds her right when Adam's about to kill her. And man, some shit goes down.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yang charges at him furiously because what
he
she
stabs
hears
Blake first.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's they cross paths and you just hear the sword hit, and then she falls at the end of it, and it looks like she lost one of her arms.
Yeah, one of her arms got chopped off because it goes flying. I was kind of edge of the seat right there. I was like, what? Oh my gosh. And then, and this, I don't know how they did this. This must be another power Yang has, but I'm not sure. But then he goes back to Blake and chops her head off. And my jaw literally was dropped. My mouth was wide open. I was like, oh my God. I did not see that coming. But then all of a sudden you see Blake and Yang running away.
Well, I think Blake can make kind of duplicates or shadows or something. And so that's what she put up so that she could run Yang escape. Off. Yeah.
Yeah. So she got out of there, but they were both really hurt. But yeah. At first, I thought he actually did just cut her head off, and I was freaking out for a minute. I was like, "Oh my God!" No, it's so crazy.
One of my favorite parts of this episode, as far as action scenes go, was where Crow, the guy who taught Rwby how to use a scythe, he's confronting this general, or he comes face to face with this general who just shot a bunch of androids' heads off. And Crow pulls out his weapon, and General's like, I didn't have anything to do with this. Because he thinks he's after him because he's looking right at him. And then he runs at him and jumps past him and just slices this Grimm right in half, this giant Grimm dragon in half. And it's just such an awesome scene watching that fall to pieces as he cuts through it.
That really was. Man, that was... Yeah, they did a great job in this episode of making it just seem like this exciting final ditch effort style battle. I loved every second of this.
This could have been the final season and the next episode's a wrap up, and that probably would have been satisfactory, but they're continuing with it even now. There's a season 4 that started in October of this year, so it's still going, still strong.
That's awesome.
Well, Chris, I think it's about time we bring our inner kids to the present using the magical properties of my handy dandy dustpan and see what they thought of Rooster Teeth's Rwby.
I thought this cartoon just looked like a video game reject, but it ended up being really cool with all these awesome fights and battles, and their swords that are swoosh, but they turn into guns pew, 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 and so many pretty girls. So many girls. I gave this cartoon 5 bowls of girl power cereal out of 5, and now I'm gonna go ask Blake the cat girl if she will be my girlfriend cat. Bye!
Okay, to be honest, unlike some animated shows, the first episode didn't really catch my interest at all. However, by the third episode we watched for today, that's where I was like, okay, whoa, now I understand why people like this. While I originally thought it was pandering too much to the hardcore anime fans and leaving out the rest of its potential audience, the last episode gave me a preview of some of the layers that this show has to offer. Rwby has a compelling narrative, an animation style that gets progressively better, and incredibly engaging combat sequences to boot. I still feel that this show isn't necessarily for everyone, but if you give it a chance, you might be surprised. Overall, I would give Rwby 4 big bowls of Rwby cereal, or cereal spelled SYRL, out of 5, and recommend you give it a shot if you can make it past the first episode. I wonder what my death weapon would be. Maybe a pair of glasses that I can whip off and transform into a giant scythe like most of the other weapons in the show.
Yeah, episode 1 was a little rough for me, but if you hold out, I mean, it did seem like it was getting a lot better, especially by the third episode where we saw all those plot points coming together.
Absolutely. So, do you have any other final thoughts on this?
Final thoughts are, for the team that put this together on a limited budget, this is a huge achievement. Even just looking at it like that, you can appreciate that much about it. But then just seeing how good it's gotten at this point, at least up to season 3, it's like, man, they can really do so much with this. They are putting their hearts into it and really giving it a lot of love and care. And that's something that with these other shows owned by giant companies, you may not get to see as much. So it's good to see that it's kind of their personal property, their baby in a way, and they're treating it as such.
Yeah, I was really, like you, I was really unsure in the first episode because of the animation until I saw the fight scenes. And I thought it was really cool. And then it just, like, the whole thing grew on me. I felt really sucked into the show because the story just kept getting progressively cooler. I mean, like, we don't get the whole story because we haven't watched it all, but you get these little bits and pieces. And it's like kind of glimpsing into this huge unfolding story that you know is there. And I was just so impressed by the writing, by the voice acting. I can't stress that enough. I think they did a great job. And there's so many characters that I want to know more about. So, like, I need to watch this whole series. I am definitely planning on it.
And as short as it is, there's no excuse not to, really.
Yeah, I mean, if every episode's like only 15 minutes or so, I mean, it'll be really easy to catch up with it.
Yeah, so thanks, Alisha, for suggesting this. I was hesitant at first, but I came around, and I'm glad that I stuck with it.
Yeah, me too. Like, I'm so excited to watch this now. Like, I know that this is going to be one of those shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender or Voltron and stuff that I just get super sucked into and just... like, I have to watch it all right now. So thank you so much.
Yeah, especially this because it's still going. Like, who knows what the future holds for Rwby.
Oh, man. Rwby.
Well, listeners, it looks like our milk supply has now run dry, so it's time for us to say goodbye. And next week, we'll be watching
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Submitted via Twitter by Callie Rose at Callie Comstock.
And once again, I'm Joseph.
And I'm Chris.
We'll see you next Saturday.
Presented by Nerdsloth,
a place for lazy nerds.
If you like what you heard, consider donating at patreon.com/nerdsloth so we can continue bringing you quality shows. Be sure to also leave us a review and share your favorite episodes and clips on social media. If you're looking for more content, visit us at nerdsloth.com.